Part 133. Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1321. Hey. Don't worry about this girl. Our inn is the only place in the little holy fire land where you can redeem holy fire stones. You can't find a place to redeem them outside the store. The waiter was full of confidence. As for the deception you are talking about, that is absolutely impossible. You may not know that in the little holy fire land, the holy fire stone is the most important resource of the true fire academy. How many of us ordinary people have you dare to cheat on this? Heard this explanation? Xiao Xian and Bai Ling also looked at each other and nodded. Indeed, for true fire academy, this little Laiyan holy fire is indeed one of the most precious resources. The holy fire stone is also their most important source of income. No matter how careless they are, they will not make any mistakes on the holy fire stone, so the waiter's words are still somewhat credible. That's fine. However, these 20,000 Dao stones can also be used to buy a good low-level spiritual treasure at the auction. Now it can only be exchanged for 20 holy fire stones. This means that the holy fire stones must be very useful, right? Xiao Xian also asked. When he asked this, the waiter in front of him laughed and said nothing. Having said this, guest officer, are you looking down on our little holy fire land? Over the years, no one has ever regretted it after redeeming the holy fire stone, the waiter said confidently. That's it? With this in mind, sir, aren't you still at ease? Oh? This is a bit interesting. If this is true, doesn't it mean that this holy fire stone is extremely precious to both cultivators and ordinary people? Xiao Xian was also thoughtful. You know, no matter what, there is a big gap between cultivators and ordinary people. Most of the heavenly materials and earthly treasures suitable for ordinary people have no effect on practitioners. Similarly, some treasures that are very beneficial to practitioners may not be of much help to ordinary people. But now, seeing the waiter's appearance, it was obvious that he was not joking, which indeed made Xiao Xian and Bai Ling a little curious. If this little Lei Yan's holy fire could have such a big impact, it would be great. Then, they really need to try to devour it. At least, this is a business that is sure to make money without losing money. Good. It seems that you are still very confident in the sacred fire of your little sacred fire land. If this holy fire stone is really so good, I will not lack your benefits. Xiao Xian nodded slightly. He understands that for ordinary people like the waiter, they naturally don't care about the so-called genius treasures and spiritual treasure herbs. What these people care more about should be some practical Tao stones. Therefore, Xiao Xian also gave him 2 Tao stones. As expected, after seeing Dao Shi, the waiter in the shop was even more happy, bowing and smiling. He was happier than meeting his own father. This actually made Bai Ling next to him sneer. As a cultivator, not only Bai Ling, but almost everyone has a natural sense of superiority over ordinary people. However, although Bai Ling felt disdainful, he did not show it directly. Then, I don't know when you two have time. I can take you two to the little holy fire land, the waiter said respectfully. This afternoon then. Bring us some delicious food at noon. When we are full, let's go to this little sacred fireplace. Xiao Xian said easily. You know, even though he has entered the golden god realm, he can already absorb the energy between heaven and earth just by breathing and exhaling, without having to eat on time every day. But as a former earthling, he still maintained the habit of eating 3 meals a day. Unless he encountered some critical situation, he would not do this. And after arriving on the Daodao continent, he also discovered that on this continent, there were not only various late autumn techniques and spiritual treasures, but also some unusual delicacies. Even some spiritual beasts and monsters will be made into delicacies for ordinary people to eat. This point is basically invisible on other continents, which is why he is interested in the delicious food of the little holy fire land. He really wanted to see it. Is there anything he is interested in the little holy fire land? This made Bai Ling a little puzzled. As a cultivator, she naturally understood that since Xiao Xian had reached the Golden God realm, there was no need to eat the food that ordinary people need to eat. But why does he care so much about these meals? However, after hearing Xiao Xian's words, the waiter looked a little embarrassed, as if he had something to say. What's wrong? Bai Ling frowned slightly. A store as big as yours doesn't even have some special dishes? We're not short of money. In response to this, the waiter also shook his head quickly. No, 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 you two have misunderstood. Our inn is the best inn in the little holy fire land. You can eat as much as you want, but, this afternoon, I suggest that the two of you, it's better not to watch Xiao Leiyan's sacred fire. Say this. Xiao Xian and Bai Ling couldn't help but become confused. After they came here, they didn't see many people interested in Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. Most ordinary people were doing their own things honestly. Why didn't the waiter let them go? Is there any problem? Xiao Xian also asked directly. Didn't you say that in the little holy fire land, everyone can exchange the holy fire stone? Is it possible that others can enter but we cannot? That's absolutely not the case. That's absolutely not the case. Don't get me wrong, you two. In the land of little holy fire, there is absolutely no such thing as superiority or inferiority. It's just, this afternoon is the time for the True Fire Academy's talent test, and there are some other sects participating, so we'd better avoid it. The waiter said helplessly. After hearing this, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling both became interested. This time, they came to the land of the little holy fire, and their purpose was to find enough flame understanding. If you talk about it, they really want to see how strong the True Fire Academy is, especially the young disciples in their sect. In this way, it will also be beneficial to their future understanding of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. At least for ordinary people, since they have come to the little holy fire land, they will definitely have contact with the True Fire Academy in the future. Therefore, if you know yourself and your enemy, you can fight every battle. Figure this out. Xiao Xian also said directly, I don't care about this. Speaking of which, now that I have come to the little holy fire land, I really want to see what the strength of this True Fire Academy is. Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1322. At this moment, Xiao Xian said these words. The waiter in the inn also had a look of surprise on his face. He couldn't understand why two ordinary people had so much courage to contact the True Fire Academy. Isn't this tantamount to asking for trouble? Apart from anything else, for any cultivator, ordinary people can be manipulated at will. Now that they take the initiative to go there, isn't it equivalent to seeking death? As the overlord of the little holy fire land, True Fire Academy is very authoritative even though it cannot be said to be cruel to ordinary people. If it is normal, perhaps, the True Fire Academy wouldn't care about ordinary people coming to experience Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. But things are different now. This afternoon is the time when the True Fire Academy is testing the talents of its disciples. At this time, ordinary people will leave voluntarily if they know something interesting. But Xiao Xian and Bai Ling were fine. Not only do they have no intention of retreating, but they plan to take the initiative to approach. What is this operation? Is it possible that they really don't want to live long? For a moment, the waiter couldn't help but look at Xiao Xian seriously. His eyes were full of doubts. Do not worry. You just need to bring us to Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. You don't need to take care of other things. After Xiao Xian finished speaking, he threw another Dao stone. See the Taoist stone. The waiter also had a look of greed on his face, and then he gritted his teeth and said, "You two, I can only secretly take you two to the outside of Xiao Lei Yan's sacred fire. If you want to get closer, I'm afraid my life will be lost." Hearing this, Xiao Xian nodded with satisfaction. "Don't worry about this. We are all ordinary people. If we want to get close to Lei Yan's holy fire, we just hope to get more benefits from Lei Yan's holy fire. Don't get me wrong. Hey, that's natural. It's Xiao Lei Yan's holy fire. Not to mention us ordinary people, even those cultivators may not have any influence on this flame." The waiter in the shop looked clear. "Oh? From what you mean, it seems that many people were interested in Xiao Lei Yan's holy fire before." Xiao Xian heard the hidden meaning of the waiter's words. "Of course. For such a long time, there have been countless people who wanted to get Xiao Lei Yan's holy fire. Even the strong men from the Dragon God realm came here several times, but in the end they all came back defeated. There were also a few who were directly killed by the True Fire Academy." "Kill them?" The waiter looked secretive. This time, Xiao Xian became interested. For the real Lei Yan holy fire, even the old man of the valley in the Saint realm suffered a big loss. At present, he dare not touch it casually, but for the little Lei Yan holy fire, he is still somewhat interested. At least, he really wanted to see if there was just a trace of Lei Yan's holy fire, whether he would have a chance to devour it. Who knows now? From what the waiter said, it seemed that many powerful people had come to the little holy fire land before, and even had conflicts with the True Fire Academy. This really made him a little curious. Logically speaking, since someone has become interested in Xiao Lei Yan's holy fire, True Fire Academy should not be unprepared. Why is the opportunity to visit the Xiao Lei Yan holy fire now open to the public? Could it be that the True Fire Academy is so confident that its sect can completely block the strong men from the outside world, preventing them from obtaining Xiao Lei Yan's holy fire? Isn't this a bit exaggerated? Think of this. Xiao Xian couldn't help but look at the waiter in front of him curiously, and ask directly, if that's the case, why doesn't True Fire Academy stop others from coming to the little holy fire land? Are they so confident? They don't think anyone will be affected. Their control over the little holy fire land. Of course, the True Fire Academy is the most powerful sect in our little holy fire land. There are several Dragon God realm experts sitting here. When it comes to understanding the flame technique, I'm afraid no sect can compare with the True Fire Academy." The waiter laughed. "Indeed, True Fire Academy is indeed the only sect that practices flames in the flame cemetery." Xiao Xian nodded. "This is it. So, sir, there are some things that ordinary people like us should not be concerned about." The waiter looked like he was coming over. Hearing this guy's mature look, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling were a little dumbfounded. You know, the two of them can be regarded as Golden God realm cultivators. With their talents, they can be regarded as core disciples in any section. Who would have thought that now they would be laughed at by an ordinary waiter in the shop? However, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling had no intention of revealing their identities. This time, the waiter in the shop became even more interested and continued, "Two guests, I would like to advise you that if you really want to visit Xiao Lei Yan's holy fire, don't get too close, otherwise even the lingering power of the flame will be enough. Let people be wiped out. Of course we know this. Although we have not seen the holy fire in person, we still have some understanding of its strength." Xiao Xian nodded and continued, "Besides, I heard that even powerful practitioners are afraid of objects like the holy fire. How can we fight against such a thing? Hear this." The waiter seemed to be relieved and said, "It's so good. I'll tell you the truth. Over the years, I've met many powerful practitioners. Each one of them was aggressive and self-centered when they first arrived. But after seeing the holy fire, I saw the waiter in the store beaming with joy." Xiao Xian and Bai Ling became interested. They do know that if an ordinary cultivator wants to swallow Lei Yan's holy fire, they must make some preparations, otherwise they will definitely suffer a big loss in the end. Don't laugh. Tell me what's going on. Bai Ling was also intrigued by the waiter's words and continued to ask, if there are really powerful practitioners, can the True Fire Academy really protect Xiao Leiyan's holy fire? This question is actually what Xiao Xian is curious about. After all, there are countless powerful practitioners in the entire Dao continent, and no one knows how powerful people will appear when the time comes. For this situation, could it be that the True Fire Academy was not prepared at all? Xiao Xian really didn't believe this. Are you ready? I can secretly reveal it to you. The waiter said mysteriously. After all, the True Fire Academy is also the most powerful sect in the Little Holy Fire Land. If I say that I'm not prepared at all, I'm afraid you won't believe it, right? Hear this. Xiao Xian and Bai Ling were really interested. They came to this place of the Little Holy Fire originally for the Little Leiyan Holy Fire. It would be a great thing if they could really get some information from the waiter in this inn. However, what they were a little bit confused about was whether a little waiter in an inn could really know any useful information. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1323. The waiter obviously enjoyed the surprised looks from Xiao Xian and Bai Ling. At this time, he began to shake his head and brag, saying that he had seen many powerful golden god realms in this inn, the most powerful dragon god realm in the world, and even felt the aura of the saint realm. This actually aroused Xiao Xian's interest. He could understand that there would be people in the entire Dao continent who were interested in the Lei Yan holy fire. However, what he wanted to understand was, at this time, what kind of person, what kind of strong man, has been to this place of the Little Holy Fire, participated in the fight for the Little Leiyan holy fire, and what was the final result? These are the things he is more interested in. Then please tell me. What kind of person is he who has the guts to come to the land of your Little Holy Fire and wants to fight for Little Leiyan's holy fire in front of the True Fire Academy? Xiao Xian asked with interest. Not only Xiao Xian, but Bai Ling next to him was also extremely curious. After all, for such a long time, except for the Saint of the Valley, they have never heard of anyone who has the ability to really devour Lei Yan's holy fire. But since these people have the courage to come, but it also proves that they do have something extraordinary. At least, if they don't have a little bit of confidence, they probably won't have that much confidence to challenge the True Fire Academy. After all, no matter how weak the True Fire Academy is, it is at least a training sect in the Flame Cemetery. Within the sect, there are also several strong men in the Dragon God realm. It's a long story. Not to mention anything else, have you heard of the King of Dragon Crystal? He is a strong man in the Dragon God realm in our Flame Cemetery. Even if he wants to secretly devour the Little Flame Holy Fire, he will be killed by the flames. Burned to death. The waiter said directly. After hearing such words, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling were also a little surprised. You must know that the real Lei Yan holy fire is so powerful that they are somewhat prepared in their hearts. Even the strong men in the valley in the Saint realm were directly burned out by the holy fire. As for the ordinary Dragon God realm, if you are not prepared, it is normal to be killed directly by Lei Yan's holy fire. And now what the waiter in this store said. A strong man in the Dragon God realm was killed by Xiao Leiyan's holy fire even after making preparations. This was different. After all, Xiao Leiyan's holy fire is just a branch of Lei Yan's holy fire. No matter in terms of power or coercion, it is far inferior to the real Lei Yan holy fire, but even so, it can still kill a well-prepared Dragon God realm expert, which has to make them vigilant. At the same time, perhaps this is also the reason why True Fire Academy is so confident. Even the well-prepared Dragon God Realm expert was devoured by Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, so what did the others matter? In the entire Flame Cemetery, how many Dragon God Realms dare to be greedy for Xiao Leiyan's holy fire? Isn't this equivalent to seeking death? Under such circumstances, a faint smile appeared on Xiao Xian's lips. The so-called wealth is gained through danger. It's not just about making money in business. The same is true on the path of cultivation. If you want to get opportunities and opportunities that ordinary people don't have, you have to take risks and challenges that ordinary people don't like. Since so many people have failed the challenge, then the True Fire Academy will definitely relax its vigilance. This is undoubtedly the best opportunity for them. That's true. Since even the strong ones in the Dragon God realm can't get an advantage in the little Holy Fire land, I'm afraid that the True Fire Academy doesn't need to make any preparations. Xiao Xian nodded and said. When he said this, he was recognized by the waiter in the store. However, Bai Ling on the other side had some hesitation on his face. She could tell that according to Xiao Xian's intention, it seemed that he was really going to try to swallow Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. If the waiter hadn't said that, Bai Ling still had some confidence in Xiao Xian, but it was different now. After hearing this information, she was a little worried. After all, it has been so long. Even a strong man in the Dragon God realm couldn't take away Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, so why did Xiao Xian and her have the confidence to take it away? Is it just luck? This is no joke. If they are not careful, they will lose their lives here. How do you say this? Do you too want to change the time? When the waiter saw that Xiao Xian and Bai Ling were both silent, he thought his words had an effect and said with a smile, in that case, shall I choose a good time for you too? No. I told you, I'm really interested in those talented disciples from True Fire Academy. Xiao Xian said nonchalantly. When he said this, the waiter and Bai Ling next to him were also a little stunned. They looked at him with somewhat disbelief in their eyes. After all, for ordinary normal people. Now that we already know that the opponent has a strong person with good strength, the best choice is to avoid his edge for the time being. But now let's see what Xiao Xian means. He didn't even think about backing down. Instead, you plan to meet the talented disciples of True Fire Academy head-on? Are you sure you're not seeking death? At least, for the waiter, Xiao Xian's behavior was simply asking for trouble. There were obviously better choices, but he still had to make this incomprehensible choice. For Bai Ling, Xiao Xian's choice is also questionable. Although their purpose of coming to the Little Holy Fire land was to devour Lei Yan's holy fire, judging from the information given by the waiter, this afternoon was obviously not the best opportunity to devour it. If True Fire Academy really chooses to select talented disciples this afternoon, then, their sect masters and elders will definitely be present together. Under such circumstances, if they want to have some ideas about this little Leiyan holy fire, aren't they seeking death? Figure this out. Bai Ling also had a look of confusion on his face. Sir, am I doing this for your own good? The disciples from the True Fire Academy will appear this afternoon. It's better for us ordinary people not to get involved, the waiter also reminded carefully. What? Do you think we can't afford it? Xiao Xian asked directly instead. No, no, no. That's absolutely not the case, that's absolutely not the case. The waiter also shook his head quickly. Sir, you misunderstood. I'm just reminding you, but if you must go, I'm afraid it will be a bit dangerous. Bai Ling on the side also nodded. At this time, Xiao Xian just shook his head and said, I think this is also a good opportunity to broaden our horizons. Being able to meet the masters of the True Fire Academy may also allow us to get to know each other and the practitioners. Isn't the gap between them very good? Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1324. This. In the inn. Hearing Xiao Xian's words, the waiter was stunned. He had been in the inn for so many years and had met various practitioners and ordinary people, but he really didn't expect Xiao Xian to say such a thing. I really want to talk about it. In this world, almost no ordinary people dare to challenge the practitioners. Even the strongest warriors in the martial arts hall have almost no chance of fighting back against the practitioners. So now, if Xiao Xian says something like this, others will laugh out loud if he puts it out there. But now, the person who said this was Xiao Xian, and the waiter in the shop who received the benefits naturally did not dare to say anything more. He just lowered his head and did not dare to say more. On the other hand, Bai Ling. After she saw Xiao Xian's appearance, she felt a little thoughtful, and vaguely seemed to know something. She also knows a little about Xiao Xian. When things go wrong, there must be monsters. Since there are still people saying this to outsiders at this time, it is enough to prove that he is prepared. Thinking of this, Bai Ling couldn't help but become curious. Speaking of which, since Bai Ling met Xiao Xian has indeed brought her a lot of surprises, especially his performance in the tomb, which can be said to be amazing and brilliant. I'm afraid even the old man in the valley didn't think of it. It is simply unimaginable that his inheritance would be obtained by a cultivator of the Golden God realm. And now, Xiao Xian can be so confident. Bai Ling really wanted to see what surprising thing he could come up with. So you two have decided, the waiter looked at the two of them tentatively and asked cautiously. That's right, go ahead and get ready. We'll leave in the afternoon. Xiao Xian waved his hand coolly and said, by the way, help us find out how many talented disciples there are in True Fire Academy and what their strength is. For the waiter in this shop, he was still somewhat interested, at least since he got to know this guy, the latter had provided him with a lot of useful information. It would be great if you could also tell him some information about True Fire Academy. Okay, two guests, please wait a moment. After hearing this, the waiter nodded slightly and continued, don't worry, you two, I will come up with information that satisfies you. Say this. The waiter also slowly left. Now, on the land of the Little Holy Fire, some cultivators wearing fiery red robes also came to a hall of flames. The person taking the lead was Huo Zhong, the sect master of True Fire Academy. As a 3-star cultivator of the Dragon God realm, Huo Zhong practices a 6th grade flame technique, and his strength is considered top-notch even in the entire flame cemetery. But Huo Zhong has been in a bad mood recently. The reason was that Huo Lai, who had high hopes for him, could not compete with Xiao Xian, who appeared from nowhere in the tomb of the old man in the valley. This was something he was a little unwilling to accept. After all, in his heart, Huo Lai was already the best disciple he could train. Sect Master, I'm still a little worried. Is this flame trial a bit too hasty? At this moment, a protector from the True Fire Academy also whispered to Huo Zhong, most of our disciples have just entered the Golden God realm. That's all. What's the rush? The youth conference is coming soon. How can they participate in the youth conference without going through the trial of fire? Huo Zhong said politely. After hearing this, the protector of the True Fire Academy did not dare to speak any more. But the sect master. If these disciples cannot withstand the flame power of Xiao Lei Yan's holy fire, how should they deal with it? The youth conference is certainly important, but if the disciples are injured, wouldn't it be worth the loss? Some elders of the True Fire Academy were talking about it. However, when they saw Huo Zhong's gloomy expression, they quickly closed their mouths. They still know a little bit about the sect leader Huo Zhong. In the True Fire Academy, he is the one and only person, and even these guardian elders have no way to interfere with his choice. If you reach the Golden God realm and can't withstand the burning of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, then there is no need to live, Huo Zhong sneered. This. Huo Zhong said these words. The faces of the elder guardians present also became solemn. They are all the elder protectors in the True Fire Academy, and they are not unfamiliar to the sect, but the current situation makes them a little frightened. After all, the disciples who can be selected today are basically the talented disciples in True Fire Academy who are not weak in strength. But according to Huo Zhong's wishes, he actually planned to let these disciples take the initiative to challenge Xiao Leiyan's holy fire and let them burn outside of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, in order to stimulate the understanding of fire in their hearts. This kind of thing has never been done before. Moreover, it also involves a lot of risks. Perhaps this method can indeed greatly increase the speed of cultivation, but for ordinary disciples, it is difficult for them to withstand the erosion of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. If we say that the disciples that the True Fire Academy has worked hard to train for so many years were all lost in this trial, it is a big blow to the entire True Fire Academy. This, Master, although this method of yours can improve the disciples' cultivation very quickly, the risks involved are still quite high. If you are not careful, their lives will be in danger, an elderly protector said. He said carefully, even old men like us can't bear the majesty of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. I'm afraid it will be even more unbearable for Huo Lai and the others. Of course I know this. Who knew that Huo Zhong's answer was very direct, and he actually admitted this directly. Then why does the sect master still require them to enter the test of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire? The old protector was also a little unexpected. You all should know how brutal the competition in the youth congress is. If there is no strength beyond that of ordinary cultivators, even Huo Lai will not be qualified to enter Zhongzhou. Under such circumstances, I will naturally let them try hardships they have never experienced before. Huo Zhong said without question, and Xiao Leiyan's holy fire is the best test for them. As the leader of the True Fire Academy, what he said was of course true to his word. At this moment, he had said this, and others did not dare to say anything more, and they stopped saying any more. Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1325. With Huo Zhong's words, the elders and guardians of the True Fire Academy had nothing to say, but this time they suffered a lot for the core disciples of the True Fire Academy. Perhaps in normal times, as core disciples, they still have a high status in the Little Holy Fire Land. Moreover, it is time to enter the youth conference in Zhongzhou. They all know that entering Zhongzhou is equivalent to another improvement in strength, which is naturally a completely new thing for them. But the problem is, at the youth conference, there will be core disciples from various sects, as well as strong casual cultivators who have been hiding in the world for many years, and even evil cultivators who wear makeup to hide their identities. Facing such a disciple, one must be strong enough. Otherwise, whether you can survive the youth conference is unpredictable. As for the current situation, let them enter Xiao Leiyan's holy fire to temper their bodies. They all know that the Huo Zhong sect master is doing it for their own good and wants them to quickly improve their strength. But as far as they themselves are concerned, they really don't have much confidence. After all, although Xiao Leiyan's holy fire is just a branch of Leiyan's holy fire, its power is definitely not that simple. Accidentally, maybe they would be swallowed up directly by the flames. By then, I'm afraid they won't even have a chance to cry, which is also what makes them feel embarrassed. Is there such a thing? With our strength, can we withstand such a strong flame? Didn't the sect master want us to die? At this moment, the core disciples of True Fire Academy were a little panicked. Although they are considered the best among the disciples in the sect, they still have some idea of their own strength. Let them practice in Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, wouldn't this cost their lives? Therefore, there was a lot of discussion among them, and all of them looked a little embarrassed. At the same time, Xiaoxian and Bai Ling are almost ready. They plan to go to the place of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire to see what Xiao Leiyan's holy fire looks like, and by the way, they will also meet the core disciples of the True Fire Academy. Compared to the two of them who were relaxed, the waiter looked nervous. They can roughly understand this. After all, for ordinary people, cultivators are inherently unattainable. It can be said that it is extremely simple for a cultivator to kill an ordinary person. However, except for some evil cultivators, practitioners in normal sects would not easily cause trouble to ordinary people, and ordinary people would not dare to provoke practitioners, and would actively avoid practitioners if something happened. But today is different. Xiaoxian and Bai Ling, two outsiders who had just arrived in the Little Holy Fire Land, were going to contact the core disciples of the True Fire Academy. Isn't this just seeking death? However, the waiter in the shop had taken advantage of Xiaoxian, and he couldn't shirk it at this time, so he could only move forward bravely. However, he also made up his mind. At that time, he just led the two of them to the outskirts of Xiao Leiyan's sacred fire, and didn't care about what happened after that. But even though this was the case, the waiter in the shop was also very anxious. Along the way, not only the waiters, but also Xiaoxian and Bai Ling were a little surprised. Many ordinary people and even cultivators looked puzzled when they saw the direction in which they were heading. After all, for them, Xiaoxian and Bai Ling's behavior was simply courting death. "Staff, why do they look at us like this? As if we are going to die," Bai Ling also asked casually. "Isn't our holy fire stone provided by the True Fire Academy? Are they going back on their word and not willing to do so? Are we allowed to get in touch with Xiao Leiyan's holy fire? No way, no way. You two should speak carefully. This is the land of the Little Holy Fire. The True Fire Academy is the controller of our place. You two must not make any unreasonable opinions." The waiter was shocked. At this time, he was on the verge of tears. Although he is a bit greedy for money, he still values his own life. If he speaks ill of True Fire Academy at this time, doesn't he despise his own longevity? What's more, today is such an important day for True Fire Academy. If the disciples of True Fire Academy heard it, they would be lucky not to be cut into pieces. "Please, you two, please stop talking nonsense. We are about to enter the place controlled by Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. In a place like this, you must not speak ill of the True Fire Academy." The waiter looked around nervously, fearing that someone might hear these words. In this regard, Xiaoxian and Bai Ling looked at each other, with a little curiosity on their faces. Speaking of which, the True Fire Academy is indeed the controller of the Little Holy Fire Land, and it is normal to have some authority here. However, even this doesn't seem to make so many people so afraid of him, right? Besides, they didn't say too many exaggerated words. They just said something casually, but it can cause such a big reaction from the waiter? Besides, they didn't seem to say anything too extreme, right? All right. We didn't say much, did we? It seemed like we were just talking casually. Xiaoxian didn't care. "It doesn't matter. You don't have to be afraid. You just need to take us to the Dao Xiaolian holy fire. You don't need to worry about other things." The waiter took this matter of course. Joke. This time we are facing the True Fire Academy. As the most powerful sect in the Little Holy Fire Land, the True Fire Academy is inhabited by Dragon God level experts. Even if there are practitioners from other sects, they must be wary of the True Fire Academy. Just 3 ordinary people, so what? Apart from anything else, I am afraid that when the time comes, Xiaoxian and Bai Ling will be even more frightened when they see the powerful flame power of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, and the powerful Tao power of the disciples of the True Fire Academy. From this perspective, The waiter didn't feel anything else. Simply, he took Xiao Xian towards the place where Xiao Leiyan's holy fire was, thinking that just taking the two of them to the outside would be considered as completing the mission. And Xiao Xian and Bai Ling saw that the waiter was so cautious. They didn't bother to talk anymore and simply stopped talking. They just followed the waiter and watched the changes in the surrounding environment. In fact, after following the waiter in the shop for a while, Xiao Xian really noticed some changes in the surrounding environment. The closer you get to Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, the higher the temperature becomes, and the surrounding rocks and vegetation also undergo subtle changes. The previously black mountain iron rock turned into brown igneous brown rock. This also surprised Xiao Xian secretly. You know, this is only a part of Lei Yan's holy fire, but it can still have such a powerful flame power. This really made them feel a little emotional. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1326. Is this the power of the holy fire? That's not true. Didn't I tell you to? There were even Dragon God realm experts here before, but didn't they all honestly admit defeat in the end? The waiter in the shop also said proudly. When these words came out, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling didn't pay much attention, they just had some curiosity on their faces. For Xiao Xian, the purpose of his coming here is to devour this little Lei Yan holy fire, so the power of this holy fire is naturally the bigger the better. Now, seeing how powerful this Lei Yan holy fire can be, he nodded secretly in his heart. Okay, you two. I can only take 2 people here. As for the front, no matter how much money I pay, I can't go there. The waiter said. Regarding this, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling looked confused. They are also well informed and have their own knowledge and understanding of some cultivation places. At this time, the waiter left them halfway. Isn't it a bit too much? I said, waiter, isn't this a little too much? Xiao Xian was somewhat dissatisfied. You at least want us to see Xiao Leiyan's sacred fire, right? Is it possible for us to be directly outside? You two don't know, but you are already within the influence of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, the waiter said. What? How can this be? Why don't I feel anything? There was a look of doubt on Xiao Xian's face. Didn't you tell me how powerful Xiao Leiyan's holy fire is? Why don't I even feel the burning sensation now? He said this. He also received a surprised look from the waiter. At this time, Xiao Xian took a look at the waiter and realized that the waiter's face was already covered with sweat. The whole person felt like he was in a furnace. Xiao Xian and Bai Ling next to them were a little surprised. Speaking of which, although they also felt that the temperature in this valley was rising, it was not to the level of the waiter. Why didn't you react at all? Impossible. For ordinary people, this kind of temperature is almost the limit that can be tolerated. Why didn't you react at all? The waiter looked at Xiao Xian and Bai Ling in surprise. Seeing him like this, Xiao Xian became a little interested and said directly, she and I both suffer from cold syndrome. This time we came to contact Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, hoping to use the flame to cure the cold syndrome. Don't get me wrong. After explaining this, the waiter finally understood a little bit. But despite this, he still had some doubts. After all, Xiao Leiyan's holy fire was no joke. How can ordinary people have this ability? Fight against Lei Yan's holy fire? Although this is only on the periphery, and it is only on the periphery of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, it is still a great thing to achieve such results. More importantly, even if Xiao Xian and Bai Ling had cold symptoms, they should still seek a doctor. Why did they come to the place where Xiao Leiyan's holy fire was? What's more, he didn't seem to realize that Xiaoxian was a doctor before. Think about it. The waiter didn't want to understand what was going on. In the end, he simply stopped thinking about it and shook his head and said, "That's it. Anyway, I have done everything I should do. I don't care about other things. If you are willing to go forward, the danger is there, it will be higher. However, didn't you say that with the holy fire stone, we can come to this small holy fire land? What dangers can there be?" Xiaoxian asked instead. "It stands to reason. It's just that I also said that today is the selection day for the core disciples of True Fire Academy. If you want to come at this time, it is naturally in danger," the waiter said lazily. After saying that, he turned around and prepared to leave. But the next second, his expression suddenly changed. His originally happy face was filled with bitterness, and then he walked back step by step. This made both Xiaoxian and Bai Ling a little confused. Speaking of which, although they had not known each other for a long time, they could still tell that this guy was definitely a smart person. Especially when facing the strong ones from True Fire Academy. This guy can be as cowardly as he wants. Now, you have the opportunity to leave this Laiyan Valley, but come back on your own initiative? What does it mean? You don't really want to share the troubles with them, right? Why are you back again? Xiaoxian also asked directly. Is this, you will know when you look at the back. Some people we can't afford to offend seem to have arrived, the waiter said cautiously with fear and helplessness on his face. Someone you can't afford to mess with. Xiaoxian was quite interested. Speaking of which, after coming to Laiyan Valley, he also knew that he would definitely face off against people from the True Fire Academy. But I didn't expect it to come so quickly. When he turned around, he saw several cultivators walking over wearing crimson robes and surrounded by the aura of fire. Judging from their power, their strength should be around the Golden God realm. It's just that most of them are at the beginning of the Golden God realm. This slightly aroused Xiaoxian's curiosity. After all, for any sect, people in the Golden God realm are already the mainstay of the sect. True Fire Academy is not a very big sect in the Flame Cemetery. Although Xiaoxian had dealt with Huolai from the True Fire Academy before, it was just a little bit, and it was not considered a big friendship. Now meet again. Xiaoxian was somewhat curious. After all, according to the previous description by the waiter, the True Fire Academy was almost described as a powerful sect. However, in Xiaoxian's view, except for those few strong men in the Dragon God realm, the others are nothing at all. Now you can meet people from True Fire Academy in advance. For him, it might be a good thing. Let him see the strength of the disciples of True Fire Academy first. Who are you? What are you doing here? As expected, the disciples of the True Fire Academy became wary when they saw Xiaoxian and the others. However, after seeing that they are all ordinary people, the leading disciple also became rude. I heard that the Laiyan holy fire in the little holy fire land is extremely powerful. We are all here to visit the little Laiyan holy fire, Xiaoxian said, neither humble nor overbearing. Oh! What do you ordinary people have to see? The leading True Fire Academy disciple said rudely, don't you know that this little Laiyan holy fire is the treasure of our True Fire Academy? Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1327. The leading disciple of the True Fire Academy spoke. A powerful flame aura appeared out of thin air, and then enveloped the heads of Xiaoxian and the others. Then, a scorching orange flame appeared instantly and suppressed them. This frightened the waiter so much that he turned pale and sat down on the ground. You know, for the vast majority of ordinary people, there is no room for resistance when faced with attacks from practitioners. It can be said that as long as cultivators attack ordinary people, the latter will die. But compared to the waiter in the shop, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling did not dodge, they just stayed in place and looked at the disciples of the True Fire Academy with smiles on their faces. This time, these disciples were a little annoyed. In fact, for these disciples of True Fire Academy, they did not really want to kill Xiao Xian and the other three, they just wanted to scare the latter. But the performance of Xiao Xian and Bai Ling, this made them a little angry. After all, in their hearts, cultivators were superior to ordinary people. Just a casual word from them. Ordinary people should kneel down and beg for mercy as a matter of course, so they may not actually kill these ordinary people. This is also their dignity as cultivators. But who knew that Xiao Xian and Bai Ling's performance would severely slap them in the face? In the land of Little Holy Fire, True Fire Academy is the undoubted ruler, and as elite disciples of True Fire Academy, their status are naturally higher than those of people like Xiao Xian and Bai Ling. The latter look so smiling and nonchalant. Don't you just look down on them? Thinking of this, the leading disciple also had anger on his face and sneered, "It seems that you don't take us seriously." "I don't dare, it's just that I don't quite understand. Why would you take the lead in attacking us if we don't know each other?" Xiao Xian shook his head, looking puzzled. "Humph. This Little Holy Fire Land is my True Fire Academy's territory. As disciples of the True Fire Academy, we protect ordinary people like you. If it weren't for us, you would have been killed by someone from some section. Why don't you kneel down when you see us?" the leading disciple said with an unkind expression. When these words were said, the waiter was so frightened that he immediately knelt on the ground with fear on his face. However, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling showed a bit of disdain on their faces after hearing these words. You must know that with Bai Ling's talent, he is considered an elite core disciple in Bian Valley and the Tomb Spirit section. His strength is not weaker than Huo Lai, let alone the disciple in front of him. Therefore, Bai Ling did not take these people seriously from beginning to end. As for Xiao Xian, not to mention these disciples of the True Fire Academy, even a strong Dragon God Realm expert from the True Fire Academy would find it impossible to get him to kneel down. It doesn't matter that these people are arrogant. Xiao Xian didn't bother to argue with them, but if they didn't know what was good and insisted on coming up to compete, then he wouldn't mind teaching these people a lesson. Now, face these people. He also had a stern face, looking neither humble nor arrogant. And this time, the waiter in the shop was frightened. He quickly pulled Xiao Xian and said, "Brother, you are not from our Little Holy Fire Land, but you still have to be in awe of the True Fire Academy, so hurry up. Kneel down." The waiter's words also aroused laughter from all the disciples of the True Fire Academy. For them, the waiter's words are correct. At the same time, this is also their purpose. They really want to see how this tough-talking Xiao Xian will react in the end. But next. Real ball of fire. The waiter turned pale with fright, looked at the leading disciple tremblingly, and couldn't help but said, "This is actually the secret of the True Fire Academy that is not passed down. Could it be that you are the direct descendant of Huozhong, the master of the True Fire Academy, disciple? See this orange flame?" The disciples of the True Fire Academy also reacted instantly and surrounded them one after another, with alert looks on their faces. "Who are you, Your Excellency?" At the same time, after the fight just now, he could roughly tell that he was indeed no match for Xiao Xian. If there was a life and death battle, he wouldn't even be 30% sure, so he could only hold back his anger. "You." Huo Qiang also took a few steps back, his face turned a little pale. In response, Xiao Xian waved his hand. After all, as cultivators, when had they ever been ridiculed by two ordinary people? Isn't this a joke? This time. It seems you are really looking for death. This made Xiao Xian look a little helpless. He casually stretched out his hand, unsheathed the serious sword, and forcefully caught the fire dragon's attack. Even Xiao Xian was a little confused. Why do you want to come to my little holy fire land to cause trouble? Hearing what the waiter said, the leading disciple also smiled slightly and said coldly, the fact that you know this shows that you are a knowledgeable person, so today I will let you know my name before you die. My name is Huo Qiang. I'm here today just because I want to visit Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. It's just that you guys don't have a good eye and you insist on coming up to get beaten. You can't blame me, right? They all knew that this disciple was really angry this time. Seeing Xiao Xian's nonchalant look, the leading disciple of the True Fire Academy was also filled with anger, and a ball of flame slowly gathered in his hand. This is simply unacceptable to practitioners like them. After saying that, the orange fireball in Huo Qiang's hand turned into a giant flame dragon and hit the waiter directly. After seeing Xiao Xian's appearance, their faces became a little gloomy. Huo Qiang almost spit out a mouthful of old blood, but at that moment, he just shook his head and looked at Xiao Xian with anger in his eyes. But at this time, the waiter behaved much more calmly. He actually closed his eyes and waited to die. The next second. Obviously, after the fire dragon was destroyed just now, his body also suffered a lot of backlash damage. Under Tian Kong's swordsmanship, the originally menacing orange fire dragon was cut into two pieces and then dissipated. They found that Xiao Xian didn't seem to have any intention of kneeling. Instead, he still looked contemptuous, as if he had completely ignored them. After all, he was the one who provoked Huo Qiang. Even if the latter wanted revenge, he should go to him. Why would he find a waiter in a soft persimmon shop? Hearing Xiao Xian's words, not only the waiter, but also the several disciples behind the leading disciple took a few steps back involuntarily. I'm not interested in wasting time with you. Huo Qiang covered his aching chest, with a vigilant look on his face. If you tell us your name, it will also let us know whose hands we fell into today. Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1328. Seeing Huo Qiang's furious look, Xiao Xian didn't care at all. After all, if he was a strong man in the Dragon God realm of True Fire Academy, he might still be afraid of it. But now, a few Golden God realms are not worthy of his fear. As for facing the person in front of you, he really didn't have any other ideas. For Xiao Xian, a disciple like Huo Qiang needs talent but not talent, and strength but not strength. How can he gain a foothold in this flame cemetery? What do you want? Do you know whose territory this is? If you dare to act arrogantly in front of our True Fire Academy, is it because you are impatient? Senior brother Huo Qiang, there is no need to be polite to him. A cultivator actually pretends to be an ordinary person. He must be a shady guy. He might be an evil cultivator, so just kill him. Huo Qiang remained silent. On the contrary, some of the True Fire Academy disciples around him looked cynical, as if they were about to rush out in the next second. Regarding this, Xiao Xian looked relaxed. For him, the performance of the disciples of the True Fire Academy did not make him feel that amazing. As for the Huo Qiang in front of him, although he was pretty good among the ordinary Golden God Realm disciples. But don't talk about the youth conference. Even among the disciples in the tomb of the old man in the valley at that time, their strength was not that amazing, not even as good as Huo Lai before. Such a person naturally does not pose much of a threat to him. That's all. Since you are here to observe Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, there should be a holy fire stone, right? Huo Qiang's face was a little uncertain, but he still said, if so, you are indeed qualified to observe. Say this. Except for Xiao Xian and Bai Ling, everyone around them was stunned. The waiter couldn't believe his ears. To him, weren't Xiao Xian and Bai Ling two ordinary people with no cultivation? Facing the True Fire Academy at this time, you should be frightened and trembling. Why is it that he can't understand the way you look now? More importantly, Xiao Xian actually used an iron sword he found from somewhere to block Huo Qiang's active attack. To the waiter, this was simply unimaginable. Not to mention, from the tone of Huo Qiang's words to them now, he could also feel Huo Qiang's respect for them. This feeling gave the waiter an unusual feeling. After all, as an ordinary person, the shop waiter may have never received this kind of respect in his life, let alone, he is still a core disciple of Zhenhuo Academy and respects him so much. If such a thing were told, absolutely no one would believe it. Of course, we were originally curious to see Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. Naturally, there is a holy fire stone. Xiao Xian took out the holy fire stone. Then go in. Our true fire academy is naturally reputable. Huo Qiang also nodded, stepped away from the road, and said seriously, please, 3 of you. Such a scene. For Xiao Xian and Bai Ling, it was relatively normal, but the waiter and the disciples from the True Fire Academy were stunned. They didn't quite believe it. Huo Qiang, the core disciple of their academy, was so polite to Xiao Xian and Bai Ling, and even invited them. To them, this is simply unbelievable. After all, even in the True Fire Academy, Huo Qiang can be considered a disciple with a very good temper and character. Except for the sect leader Huo Zhong and some guardian elders. Huo Qiang hardly looked down upon anyone. Even Huo Lai, who was recognized as the #1 disciple of the True Fire Academy, might not be so polite. But now, Huo Qiang is so polite to Xiao Xian. Is it because of the confrontation just now? I thought of this for a moment. The people present were also a little silent, and they still understood Huo Qiang's reaction. For the proud Huo Qiang. If Xiao Xian was not strong enough, he would naturally not be able to speak in such a polite tone, and if Xiao Xian could be so strong, it would make them a little afraid. For so long, they had never seen anyone make Huo Qiang so polite. Today, Xiao Xian was an eye-opener for them. Brother, what do you mean? At this time, after seeing Huo Qiang's appearance, the other disciples of the True Fire Academy also seemed to know something thoughtfully. But Huo Qiang obviously didn't want to say anything more on this matter. He just stood there and motioned for Xiao Xian to continue moving forward, as if he didn't intend to stop him. This scene also surprised everyone present. After all, for most people, in the land of Little Holy Fire, they naturally have to maintain the most basic respect for the True Fire Academy. Even some powerful people in the Dragon God realm must maintain respect for the True Fire Academy in this place. But now, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling's appearance made them very uncomfortable. In the land of Little Holy Fire, you actually have no respect for True Fire Academy. If this kind of thing is said out, I am afraid that they will immediately become the target of public criticism. What are you going to do? Looking at how aggressive you are you trying to stop them? Seeing Xiao Xian and the others leaving, Huo Qiang had a little more curiosity on his face and said directly, if even I can't stop them, do you think who of you can stop them? Say such a sentence. For a moment, all the True Fire Academy disciples present were stunned. To be honest, although they are all core disciples of True Fire Academy, in terms of strength and talent, they are naturally not as good as Huo Qiang. Now, even Huo Qiang recognized Xiao Xian's strength. Naturally, they didn't have much to say. After understanding this, they no longer said anything more, but looked at each other with more seriousness on their faces. For them, they are also the core disciples of the True Fire Academy. Although they are not as good as direct disciples like Huo Qiang, they are still very capable people. Now they also feel a little embarrassed. After all, they previously thought that with their strength, the Little Holy Fire land was unique. Who knows now? The inexplicable appearance of Xiao Xian could cause them such frustration. This really surprised them, and at the same time, they were more or less hit. As for the other aspect, after leaving these disciples of True Fire Academy, The waiter in the shop was completely shocked. He never expected that Xiao Xian and Bai Ling were so powerful that even a disciple like Huo Qiang could value them so much. Could it be that they were originally trying to hide their strength? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1329. Now. Walking on the road to the place of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. Xiao Xian and Bai Ling were relatively calm, but the waiter next to him had an embarrassed look on his face, feeling speechless when looking at the person in front of him. After all, before this, he had shamelessly said that he would help them get closer to Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. But who knows? Finally, he discovered that the clown was actually himself. Not to mention anything else, just relying on Xiao Xian and Bai Ling to make so many people in True Fire Academy pay so much attention to them is enough to prove their strength. You two, you were really a little rude before, but I didn't expect that you two are also hidden masters, the waiter followed behind. Although he was sweating profusely from the heat, he did not dare to stop. Not really a master, just self-defense, Xiao Xian said casually. No no no. You two are really too humble. With your strength, since you can make Huo Qiang take it so seriously, I'm afraid, even if you face other people who go to True Fire Academy, you won't be too scared, right? The waiter also stammered a compliment. Xiao Xian didn't care about such words and just shook his head. I just want to see the legendary Xiao Leiyan's holy fire this time. I don't care so much about other things. What he said was an understatement. The waiter and Bai Ling couldn't help but be a little surprised. You know, even the Dragon God realm is extremely afraid of the power of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, but now Xiao Xian is only in the Golden God realm. Why can he be so confident? Is it just because he is interested in Xiao Leiyan's holy fire? Isn't this somewhat surprising? Do you two really want to be so close? If my guess is correct, there should be a group of core disciples of the True Fire Academy in front of me. Even the sect leader of the True Fire Academy, Huo Zhong, will be among them. If we are not sure enough, we should not get close, right? Following Xiao Xian and the others walked over. The waiter in the shop also became nervous. Although he was aware of Xiao Xian's strength, if he wanted to get closer to Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, it would not only be the power of the holy fire itself, but also the threats from the True Fire Academy. These two threats were not something he could contend with. You know, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling are both cultivators. Maybe for them, facing the True Fire Academy is not so nervous, but it is different for the waiter. He is just an ordinary person, and he is just fighting against Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. Sweating profusely. How? If not, can you go back first? Xiao Xian didn't pay much attention. For him, the waiter was of great help to them. Under such circumstances, if the waiter was willing to stay, he could protect him, but if he himself was not willing, that would be fine. So now, Xiao Xian also gave the waiter the power of choice. Now, the waiter is really hesitant. For him, an ordinary person, it is absolutely dangerous to get involved in things between cultivators. Under normal circumstances, he should naturally leave quickly. But things are different now. After what happened just now, people at True Fire Academy may have remembered what happened to him. If he encounters Huo Qiang again, without the protection of Xiao Xian and Bai Ling, there will probably be no one left here after more than 10 years of his death. No. According to normal logic, now that the True Fire Academy is probably aware of their existence, will they continue to try to swallow Xiao Leiyan's holy fire according to their original plan? Is this a little too confident? Perhaps others might be a little scared, but Xiao Xian acted relatively calmly, as if nothing happened. The waiter also looked embarrassed. For these forces. For the two of them, it would be okay to bring an extra waiter with them in normal times, but now they have to compete for Xiao Leiyan's sacred fire. After all, looking at the current situation, most of the core disciples of True Fire Academy have arrived here. On that note. But it's different now. Anyone who wants to swallow Xiao Leiyan's holy fire will be fully prepared. Is it possible that you are still an alchemist? With the strength of the two of them, if they accidentally meet a strong dragon god realm expert like Huozhong, it would be a bit dangerous. Now if they take an ordinary person with them, his life will be in danger if he is not careful. If they want to comprehend and even devour Xiao Leiyan's holy fire next. At that moment, Bai Ling also took the initiative and said, "Do you know that if we continue to move forward, we will be affected by more Lei Yan's holy fire? How can you, an ordinary person, resist such a strong flame? Perhaps it is the best choice for the waiter to stay where he is." Xiao Xian and Bai Ling didn't care. What they cared about more was how to face the so-called Xiao Lei Yan's holy fire next. Elixir. What he had to face was not only the huge temperature in Xiao Leiyan's holy fire, but also the obstruction from the True Fire Academy. As the most important treasure of the True Fire Academy, the True Fire Academy will definitely not watch Xiao Leiyan's holy fire being swallowed casually, let alone allow people other than their sect to swallow these powers. Although the little Lei Yan holy fire may not be as powerful as the real Lei Yan holy fire, it should not be underestimated. Where did Xiao Xian come from such strong self-confidence? From this perspective. Hearing this, the waiter in the store also had a look of surprise on his face, and couldn't help but ask curiously, "I was really blind before." This fact made Bai Ling on the side a little confused. No matter from any angle. Xiao Xian and Bai Ling looked at each other. Say this. Maybe his best choice is to follow Xiao Xian and Bai Ling. Thinking of this, the waiter nodded and said humbly, "If you two can take me with you, I would be very grateful." Say this. If it were normal times, no one might care. He naturally knew that as an ordinary person, it would be very difficult to follow Xiao Xian and the others, but for the sake of his own life, he seemed to have no choice but to do so, which made him somewhat embarrassed. In the future, there may not be many opportunities. More importantly, if there is a conflict with the True Fire Academy in the future, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling are not sure that the waiter will be safe. Needless to say, there will definitely be conflicts with people from True Fire Academy in the future. But now, what if you still have to carry a waiter like you? Say it. A white jade light elixir, after eating it can improve your fire attribute resistance. Xiao Xian took out a pill and handed it to the waiter on the side. Are you crazy? If you become the leader of the clan, all the clan members will become emperors. Author, greedy for the body but not FO. Chapter 1330. What's wrong? Looking at you, it seems you still have something to say, right? After Xiao Xian saw Bai Ling's appearance, he also smiled and asked directly, "Looking at you, you don't seem to trust me very much, do you?" I still trust you, but how do you plan to face the True Fire Academy? Do you just say trust to the True Fire Academy? Bai Ling couldn't help but ask. Looking at what you two mean, it seems that you are here for Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. The waiter is a smart man. After seeing the looks of Xiao Xian and Bai Ling, he was also thoughtful. Good. Do you have any ideas? Now that things have developed to this point, Xiao Xian was too lazy to hide it and said directly, "If there is any, you can tell me now." Hear this. The waiter hesitated for a moment and said, "If you two are really cultivators and want to devour Lei Yan's holy fire, there may still be a chance. Today may be the time when Xiao Lei Yan's holy fire is at its weakest." At this moment, Xiao Xian and Bai Ling became interested instantly. In fact, although Xiao Xian was calm on the surface, he was still a little worried in his heart. relying on the cultivation experience on the first two continents. He can also roughly judge that if you want to conquer the holy fire, even if it is just a small holy fire, you must pay a high price. But now, he really doesn't have much choice. After all, for the upcoming youth conference, Xiao Xian may only have the only way to improve his strength by swallowing the holy fire. Maybe for others, this kind of challenge is almost impossible to complete. Even if it is completed, it is extremely difficult. If you are not careful, you may lose your life. However, for Xiao Xian, this is the only chance. He knows very well that anyone who does not advance on the path of cultivation will retreat. If he cannot find ways to quickly improve his strength, he will eventually be surpassed by more talented cultivators. This has been proven time and again on various roads. This is also the reason why Xiao Xian is so determined to swallow Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. But now, the waiter in the shop actually told such a piece of information, and he was still very interested. "How do you say this?" Xiao Xian couldn't help but ask. "You don't know something?" In response, the waiter nodded. As for the other side, although the Lei Yan holy fire is a thing of heaven and earth, it also has its peak period and its decline period. According to the previous inference, there is one peak period and one decline period in a year. Recently, it is the decline period of this little Lei Yan holy fire. However, Xiao Xian became somewhat interested. He knew that since even the waiter in the store knew that Xiao Leiyan's holy fire had an expiration date, it was impossible for the True Fire Academy not to know about it. Moreover, there are some reasons why True Fire Academy chose to let its core disciples come to enlightenment at this time. At this time, the waiter in the store had completely become a member of Xiao Xian and Bai Ling's side, and he also took the initiative to say, "If this is really the case, I would suggest that you two pay attention to the master of the True Fire Academy, Huo Zhong. I grew up in the little holy fire land, so I know some news." The waiter said, "Today, my little life was saved by the two of you, so naturally I know everything." Not only that, if the disciples of the True Fire Academy were to conduct the trial of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire today, then the power of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire would be reduced again. This is also the time of year when Xiao Leiyan's holy fire is at its weakest. The waiter said, "Looking at what you two mean, it seems that you are really planning to take action against Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. In fact, for him, it is more important to get Xiao Leiyan's holy fire. Having the waiter's information will really help him a lot." Xiao Xian also expressed his sincere thanks. After all, if there are disciples in the True Fire Academy who can get some understanding of Xiao Leiyan's holy fire before the youth conference, then they will definitely shine at the youth conference. But it's understandable. It is impossible for True Fire Academy not to know these truths that even Xiao Xian understands. In this case, Xiao Xian really has to seize the opportunity to study this little Lei Yan's holy fire. It is best to take away this little Lei Yan directly. Holy fire. Under such circumstances, Xiao Xian felt that this matter was probably related to the upcoming youth conference. This is naturally the best thing for them. Now, when she heard what the waiter said, she was really touched. She also didn't expect that cultivators would have such a strong deterrent effect on ordinary people, so that the latter had no idea of resistance. "Say this. This is what I should do. If it hadn't been for your life-saving grace, young master, I might have died at the hands of that powerful man," the waiter said with a grimace. Hearing this, Xiao Xian was a little surprised. He didn't expect that he would have such luck by accident. Bai Ling couldn't help but look at Xiao Xian, with a bit of pity and sympathy on his face. The waiter said seriously, "As a practitioner in White Flame Valley." Bai Ling thought for a while and said, "On the other hand, I think as long as you ordinary people don't provoke these practitioners, they won't cause trouble for you, right?" The waiter looked helpless and said with embarrassment, "You two don't know something. Maybe for you two, the True Fire Academy is nothing, but for ordinary people like us, the True Fire Academy is undoubtedly a huge thing. Existence, let alone killing Xiao Xiao, even if Xiao Xiao's whole family is destroyed, Xiao Xiao can't do anything. But speaking of it, since you are also from the Little Holy Fire Land, why do the cultivators of the True Fire Academy always kill people? Is it just that they can't tolerate your few words? Bai Ling said, a little dissatisfied. Even if their True Fire Academy is very strong, they don't seem to be so domineering, right? These are elite disciples who have been trained by the True Fire Academy for several years. Each of them is a cultivator at the Golden God level. Even in the Flame Cemetery, they are very powerful beings. It is understandable that they are arrogant. She really hasn't seen much of the suffering that ordinary people encounter. What's wrong? He also has to make some preparations. Bai Ling embarked on the path of cultivation as soon as he was born, and soon showed a stronger talent than ordinary practitioners, so he became the apprentice of Old Man Bai Yan, and his subsequent cultivation path was smooth. This. Thank you. How do you know this? Xiao Xian couldn't help but ask.